What documents should a successful project have? My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management specialist. I help professionals to become successful project managers. Well, today I'm going to talk about project documentation. This is also a question that I usually get very often, where people ask me, how do I start a project? What documents should I have to start a project? What documents should I have to close a project? What documents are mandatory to having a project? Well, the first thing that I want to tell you that there are no mandatory documents in any type of project. And I'm going to tell you why. Because projects by nature, they are different. So you're going to see all types of different projects in different types of environment that will have different requirements. For example, if you're developing a new application or if you're developing a new website, and you have a team of 3 or 4 people in the same room working for 3 months, that's a type of project. If a company is investing, for example, in a new mine, that's an investment of maybe millions and sometimes even billions of dollars, depending where you're talking about. This will have a different type of project because then you have thousands of people working on that. This project usually take few years to be implemented. You have a lot of stakeholders from local people, different companies, and so on. So this is a type of project that will have a different type of documentation requirement. So what I'm sharing my screen here to show also what's in the PMBOK, because sometimes people tend not to fully believe in that. So that's why you have in the PMBOK. So important here that PMBOK, it's a guide with best practice. PMBOK, it's not a framework by itself. And so there you're going to see several items, 7 best practices that you can use to execute your project. And here I'm pointing out the 6th edition. That's the process-based version from the PMBOK, which is already still valid. Everything that's already there is still valid. A lot of those things are applicable. People use that much more when they were looking to waterfall. And of course, the PMBOK 7 edition, it's different. It's based on principles and so on. But why I want to show you the PMBOK 6th edition? Because this is a print screen from the PMBOK itself, where it's written down that it's up to the project manager to decide what's appropriated to him or her project. So PMBOK is not a methodology. It's like a foundation of concepts that you have there that companies can use to build a methodology, policies, procedures, and so on, and tools. But why I'm saying that? So in the PMBOK, you have the 10 knowledge areas. You have 5 different process groups with 49 different processes. In each of those processes, you are going to see sometimes a suggestion as a best practice to add a document, for example, a project plan, a procurement plan, a communication plan. But does not mean that you need to create, for all projects, you need to create all those documents. It does not make sense to do like that. Because in the example I mentioned, if you're developing a website, why do you need to have a document to mention how your team is going to communicate if you have 3 or 4 people working in the same room? So there it's much more important that you make sure that very likely because of the fact they're in the same room, the communication will flow organically. So if you're working with the team and at least you have a minimum of culture that you are developing this team and a minimum of decent values, that those people, they tend to collaborate more because they are in the same environment. They are going to tend to talk more because they are in the same environment. And of course, if I go back to the mining project where you're going to have thousands of people, even if there's always organic communication going on, it's very difficult to make sure that thousands of people are aligned just because of organic communication. So the requirements of documentation, they can change a lot. And here, of course, if you are using waterfall, you might, and the requirements, again, for documentation, they can change, but they're also company oriented. Every company, for example, has a different way to start a project. I've worked in companies where a project was started, like in the commercial area, they had a commercial opportunity. So they develop a scope there, at least a basic or a conceptual scope for the project, what they want to do. They develop a business case, they get approval, and then they say to a customer. And then if the company was awarded, then you sign a contract, and at this stage, the project was officially starting, or the project was officially handed out for the project management area. I've worked in companies where you have a specific gate to start a project, meaning that the company assess the portfolio of products, assess all the marketing opportunities, then there's a discussion, say, considering our potential chances or potential products that we can develop. This one seems that's more interesting one, and that's what we are going to allocate our available research right now. And this gate, then it's approved, and of course then you go for a conceptual phase where you also have a series of documents that needs to be completed as a conceptual phase to make sure that you can progress with your project. And I've seen companies where the project was started, where we started the project when a customer reached out because there's a commercial opportunity. There was a very big opportunity for the company. So project team was formed already to work into this opportunity. And of course, then we start to invest hours. I was working the project even as a project manager to make sure that we organize this and put the right context in this conceptual phase, because this conceptual phase would lead to a business case, and that led gladly to the company being nominated for a business. But why I'm saying that, so there are different requirements. In a company, some companies will be customer related, some other companies will be mainly internally. I've seen projects being approved because not all the projects they involve to develop a product or to sell something to a customer. Sometimes there's an internal project. Then you have at least a high level concept of your scope, what you want to do. You define a budget, and then you go for you find a sponsor, or you go to a board to review it, because it makes sense that the project is approved if the project is aligned with the company strategy, the project has a business case that's interesting for the company, and you move on. So you're never going to find a document, you're never going to find something in the PMBOK, you are not going to find something even the Prince2 or Scrum or Kanban or Lean saying what documents that you need to have for your project. All those different frameworks, they have options, what's interesting for you, but you as a project manager, you need to understand what's applicable in that situation, what makes sense in that situation. And that works exactly in the same way for the question, how do I close a project? Well, different organizations again will have different ways to close projects. One of the organizations I worked on, because we were working with EPC, engineering, procurement, and construction. So the company had a contract signed with a customer, and we had defined requisites that we had to complete a project, meaning that you need to be completed. The customer had to be a final inspection, and there was a formal document that the customer would issue, so the guarantee for the service would start. So that was kind of the formal document that would close a project. And of course, then you have also things for the internal procedure, meaning that maybe you need to have a final update in the business case, you need to close cost centers, and then there are always internal actions that you need to take to start or to open a project. But that will be very it will vary from company to company, because it's natural. Some companies, the companies will have different procedures, you have different industries, you have different business requirements, you have different types of contracts, you have different customer requirements. So it's impossible to say straightforward what documents that you need in a project. So that type of question, I've seen a lot. I get a lot sometimes the type of question, what are the KPIs? What are the most important documents that a project should have? What are the most important, what are the documents that you need to close a project? What are the documents do you need to open a project? What are the documents that you need to close a phase? So in short, there's no answer for that. Because to start a project and to close a project or to close a phase, it will depend. Depend on your project that you're working on, depend on the internal procedure of your company, depend on the best practice that you can have there. And all those things will affect what you're trying to do there. So it's very important that first you understand that. That being said, what is a good practice to start a project, for example? Well, you need to identify a business need, for example, and this business need needs to be aligned with the company strategy. For example, if you're talking even about commercial opportunities there, I've seen companies working there saying that I want to, one of my strategies or at least one of my targets, I want to have my profitability, minimum profitability of, for example, at 10%, meaning that I want operating profit minimum of 10%. That's fair. But then what happens if the company suddenly comes and have a business opportunity to operate in a business with a profit of 5%? So there is a business opportunity, but this business opportunity is not aligned with the company strategy. So unless you have another reason, that can also be a strategic reason, saying that's our best customer, so they're asking us to do it and we are going to do it because of the commercial relationship. So there's no reason, does not make sense to start a project that does not have a strategic alignment with your company. Then, so that's the basic that you need to have for any type of project. And of course, usually you need a business justification, and that's also a business justification needs to be aligned with the strategy of the business, and then you need to have at least a set of requirements to start on that. And again, that's for all type of project. That independently if you're looking for waterfall, independently if you're looking for Scrum, if you're looking for Kanban. And why? Well, if you're starting a new software, for example, it's because if you're using Scrum, it's because the company identified a market opportunity there, identified some type of value that you need to do there for your customer, for a delivery value for the market if you don't have a specific customer. And that's what you are going to follow through. And then, of course, if you're going to use Scrum, then you're going to have a product owner to start to define at least the initial requirements. The product owner needs to be responsible there to make sure that you have a clear product vision, where you want to go, what kind of value that you want to achieve with this product, why this product is important, how it can be valuable for our market or for the customer. And then you have at least a set of requirements that you're going to work on. If you are working with Scrum, those requirements, they can change, but the product vision, what you're trying to do there, that's also the product vision aligned with the strategic goal for the company. It needs to make sense. And the business case there, it needs to make sense. Then, and that's also why when I talk in my programs, I also talk a lot about business case, because the business justification, which in a lot of cases or in most of the cases connected with a business case, needs to make sense for a company. Why you are going to develop a new product where you do not expect to make any money on that? It can be, I've worked in a project like that, but they say, okay, we are not going to make money in this project, but this is our biggest customer and they want our support, then we are going to do it anyway. That's fine. But anyway, the business case, it was there, and there was an explanation, a business justification to start a business. So this is very important to start a project. So making sure that the project has a strategic alignment with the company, make sure that you have a good business justification there. You need to have, to start a project, at least top requirements there. Ideally, you want to have a sponsor who is supporting you to start the project, right? And you need to have an idea about the stakeholders. And when I talk about stakeholders, people tend to overthink Because in a lot of projects, depend if you're working in an organization that's more structured and depending how the departments are, you don't need to start to identify stakeholders all the time. Why? Because the stakeholders usually are the same. So you have a customer, the customer might change, but usually there's a customer there, and then you have the manager, the leadership, the sponsor, and so on, and the the organization with their stakeholders there, with the governance of the project that you need there. So that's clear. And talking a bit, what do you need to close a project? I mentioned to close a project in general that will change a lot, and depending on the procedure of the company, what is a good practice to close a project? Is to define at least a type of milestone that you can have, because in the same way that you define a milestone to officially start a project, what's called a kickoff meeting, that's a milestone, or that you say, now the project officially started. The resources are mobilized and everyone starts to focusing on that. It's nice to have some kind of milestone also to close a project. And this milestone can be, as I mentioned, for construction, for this construction projects that I worked in the past, can be a specifically document saying, okay, I achieved it, the customer agreed, confirmed the scope, then we can start to count the guarantee and you move forward with that. But also, it's nice that you collect lessons learned, and if there's a case, you have a handover to production. And what I mean handover to production, well, of course, if it's a construction project, in this case, the customer was already operating there, then the handover kinds of go organically, or more or less organically, if I can say like that. But if you are ramping up a new product, you need to hand over somehow this to production. Say, hey, dear production, this product is released. You have a forecast that's already in the system. This is the level of stock that to be prepared. This is the supply chain that we release it. This is the lead times in the supply chain. Those are things, of course, usually you set during the project, but making sure that the operational team, they understand that the project, it's say, I'm closing the project, up from here, it's up to you to execute it. This is very important to avoid that you keep getting questions, because I've seen companies that they don't, with low project management maturity, and they end up never closing the project, and they keep running changes. Then the customer says, I changed something else. Yeah, but this product is already in production for 2 years. Then they just move for another change, and then there's basically, that means that the project never closed. Then the project continue having costs, which is kind of ridiculous, and that means there's basically no changeover. And the company would, at some point, they were so disorganized in the project management that they were not even charging the customer for those changes. So the customer say, I changed this. Okay, then you put engineering hours, you do select parts, you release it, you say, oh, then they come again change. All those things, they cost money. So that's important. Why, even though that's not well defined in what you need to close a project, but it's very important that you close the project. And you hand over to production. And then production, if they get a change, they're not going to take like that. Then need to be assessed. Then you need to, of course, the company needs to have a change management procedure, how to handle with the customer, can be account management and so on. But this is very important that you have this milestone to close the project. And maybe a way to hand over to production. Other thing that's important, usually it's good that if this handover or whatever you do, you have a way to check if the project delivered the benefits that they were expected. Meaning can be the benefits for the customer. A lot of times there's also a business case there that at least I understand, of course, if you develop a new product and the product will be sold for the next 5 or 10 years or 30 years sometimes, the business case will not be fully closed. But at the time that you release to production, you can know, okay, that's the margin of the product I'm releasing. This is the bill of material of the components. This is the cost of production, and this is where we stand. So if we sell as we expected to sell in the next years, that's how we end up our business. For construction, it's easier because then you already executed everything. You say, that's how much money I used to construct, to assemble, and to deliver everything to the customer. this is how much money we got it, and this is our margin, this is our profit. So it's also easy. And also it's important to have lessons learned process there. And when I talk about lessons learned when you close a project, be careful. Why? Because lessons learned is not something that you should just do when you close the project for all types of reasons. First of all, because if you're running a 1 or 2 years project, you're going to forget those lessons learned. And it's important that you communicate the challenges back to the organization while you are having them. Why? Because although in your project you have this challenge, the organization might be able to avoid the same type of issue in all other projects that are starting now. And so this is a process that's very important. And of course, what you do at the end of the project, you make sure that all the lessons learned there. Some companies, they have a file where they consolidate everything. Sometimes you discuss with the team. Sometimes you present it to the other project manager, say, those are were the lessons learned. But again, very important that you don't wait to the end of the project to share those and to discuss this with your team also. And if you do that, that's also a nice way to gain visibility in the company, to be proactive for the company, because say, hey, project management team, hey guys, if you have a team meeting, I have a problem in this project because of this, and that. I'm just sharing with you to make sure that you don't have the similar problem. So when you do that, what people are going to do? Usually they are going to check if they have something in their problem, in their project. And if they haven't, they go back to you, okay, how did you solve it? How do you avoid it? Or how it's going there, because when you solve it, it also will apply for me. But that helps the entire organization. And when you do that, how the organization also understand that you are a person that it's focusing what you need to do, but also you are trying to make the organization as a whole better. So that's a very important thing to do. So in a sense, to close a project, and again, in other projects you're going to have it's always important that you have a milestone, confirm the business case, not the business case, the value that the project delivery, one of them should be the business case. And if your company does not have anything, because that might not be a contract directly with a customer, and that might not be that the company does not have a formal procedure that with the deliverables, how to do it, try to organize at least something yourself. Invite your main stakeholders there, make a short presentation about what was the project, what the project achieved, what the results, what you learned, and inform that here we are closing this project and this is done deal. Make sure that the cost centers or the internal orders for the development, everything is closed and move to the next one. Can be a very simple thing then, because again, there's no right or wrong if your organization does not have anything. But it's very important that you make this event, because that's also a way to inform everyone that we close the project, that's what we achieved, and we move forward. Because when you close the project, and also it avoids that you keep getting questions, because what I've seen also happen in the past, something that's, for example, a product was already released, and people keep asking questions to the project manager. What should I do here? Can you approve this? Say, project's closed. This is production. I'm not going to continue getting involved in any type of production issue that you might have. And sometimes the production issue is the customer asking something, communication between a supplier and the company that you're working on, communication between your company and the customer, and of course, you are part of the company, you can always help what's going on, but you should make it clear that you cannot get directly involved every time. Otherwise, operations will not take over, otherwise the commercial area will not take over, and you are always going to have some work that will consume your time to do something that for a project that's not there anymore. So that's why this event, even if your company does not have anything, it's important that you create something to go there. So that's just explain a bit how to start and to close a project. Again, I hope that you understand that you're never going to see any type of document as mandatory for any type of project. In a lot of projects, of course, if your company has a procedure saying which documents are mandatory, then you have that, but then it's a company specific. You're not going to find something like that on PMBOK, on Prince2, on Scrum, or anything else. But keep in mind also when you talk about documentation, the documents that you create, they must add value in your project, because I've seen project managers, because they look to the PMBOK, they see a lot of documents and they think it's nice, and they start to create documents, and then a lot of part of their time go to update those documents, but in reality, those documents, those reports, they do not add any value from what you're doing. So every time you're creating a document or a report or a KPI, you need to think about what type of value and how this item here will help me to deliver the project. Because creating a document, it's not only creating a document, because you always need to keep these updated. You always so they're always going to take part of your time or part of your team's time to keep this rolling. And if there's no value in what you're doing there, again, if you're trying to keep a communication plan with a team of 3 people that sits in the same room, you're writing a document, and so you are spending hours. I think that's really would be better to invest the time talking with the team members. Say, hey, let's make sure that we have a clear communication, trying to foster an organic communication, then creating paperwork that will not help you. So this is a very important point. While you're creating a document, think about the value. Remember, again, project management is about delivering value. Your ultimate goal as a project manager is to deliver project value. So this is quite important there for you. And then, of course, keep in mind that some documents, they are going to help you. And it's not because that you are using Scrum that you should not have any type of document. So documentation, it's good if you have in mind that you're creating a document that will help you to add value and help you to deliver the project. That's a good thing. So you need to find the balance there between value that the documents will bring for you, but also the work that you need to create and keep those documents. And this right balance there can be difficult to find. Some big organizations, they are very bureaucratical, but that's also how and why a lot of startups are beating them down very fast, because then they do not have this huge pile of work and bureaucracy to be done. They can just focus on the value delivery. So that's why even in a big organization, you need to have this right balance there, because if you do not see the value there, if there's no value for a document that you're creating, you always can challenge this in the organization. Say, why I'm going to create a big ass risk tracker there in Excel with some, as some organizations have, with a lot of macros. Hey, I have, I don't know, 5 or 6 risks that I need to manage. Nothing there is very complex there. Yeah, you can do that in a much simpler way. You don't need to spend hours dealing with macros and so on. So keeping this in mind will help you to deliver value for the organization. Because again, if you focus on value delivery there, that's what's going to make a big difference in what you're trying to do. Because if you're delivering value, that's what's going to make you grow into your career. If you're delivering value, solving problems, then the organization will see you as valuable. The organization is not thinking about, oh, this guy, the organization is not thinking about waterfall, the organization is not thinking about agile or Scrum or whatever. What the organization wants is the value in the end. So it's very important that you find a good way to deliver the value there. Make sure here, again, you like this content and share this content with more people so they can learn project management, they can learn more about required documentation in projects. But also, liking this video and share with other people, it helps this video to reach more people, but it helps me to understand why it's valuable for you. And then it helps me to create more content like that, then I can add more value for you. If you have suggestions or if you have questions, you can write it down in the comments. If it's something that's not clear, you can write it down in the comments here. And of course, if it's not, you can also make sure you follow me on YouTube, because every week there's more content I'm adding there. But also make sure you follow me on Instagram, because there I'm also sharing content. I share daily content, smaller pieces that it's easier to digest. But also I have a Q&A box where it's open every day and you can ask all type of questions. If you have questions, you can send me a direct message, because if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in this journey. Thank you very much and see you soon. Bye!